In our first question, we're given two ratios and we're asked to see if they're equivalent, or think of it, are they a proportion? In the first one, notice 0.25 is less than 6, but 1.25 is less than 2. So in other words, what's the ratio here? Now if we notice, we can take 6 divided by 3, and I would get 2. If you take 0.25 divided by 3, will you get 1.25? No, you will not. So this one is a no. In the second question, if I look at those two ratios, if I take 2 times 8, we get 16. If you take 2.5 times 8, you get 20. So this one is a ratio, or ratios are equivalent. When you're looking at these problems, you really want to say, can I reduce these to the same fraction? And if you want to reduce the decimal, remember you want to move it over 2 places in the numerator. You move it over 2 places in the denominator, then you reduce it. When we solve a proportion in the next set of problems, it's really no different than solving any other equation we've done. We look at this and we say, oh, it's n divided by 12. Well, what's the opposite of division? Well, it's multiplication. So we're going to multiply both sides by 12. I like to put it as 12 over 1 because we have a fraction. So you can see it. So notice on the left side, everything reduces and you got n. On the right-hand side, 8 does not go into 12, but what goes into both of them? Well, 4 goes into both 8 and 12. So 12 divided by 4 is 3. And 8 divided by 4 is 2. So in other words, 3 times 3 is 9 over 2 is our answer. Now if we look at the next problem, we approach that the same way. I'm dividing both sides by 12 again. Or I'm dividing x plus 4 by 12, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 12. And notice the 12 is reduced. We're left with x plus 4 on the left. On the right-hand side, 4 goes into 12 3 times. 4 divided by 4 is 1. So we get 3 times 3, which is 9. At this point, we'll subtract 4 from both sides. And x equals 5. I'll circle that to show that that's my answer. In our next problem, it says the gear on a bicycle is 8 to 5. That's a ratio, I should say, the gear ratio. That means for every 8 times you turn the pedal, the wheel turns 5 times. Suppose a bicycle wheel turns about 2,435 times during a trip. How many times would you crank the pedals during that trip? Well, let's set up our ratio so we know it's 8 to 5. Let's get the pencil in here. There we go. Now remember, 8 is the pedal and 5 is the wheel. So when we have 2,435 times, that's the wheel, isn't it? The wheel turns 2,435 times. So when you set up your ratio, 2,435 goes in the denominator. And you're looking for the numerator, which I'll call x. That's probably the hardest part of this problem, is figuring out where to put the numbers for the second ratio. Now, we just solve the equation. We're going to multiply both sides by 2,435. And notice, once again, the 2,435 is reduced. We get 1 there. So we're going to have x for an answer. Now we'll take our calculator out and we'll take 2,435. We'll divide it by 5. That'll give me 487. Which will be 1. If we take 487 times 8 then, we get an answer of 3896. And so that's our answer. The question says, how many times would you have to crank the pedals during the trip? 3,896 times. Next, let's take a look at the next problem. It says, in an atlas, the scale for a map for Connecticut is 5 inches equals 41 miles. So we'll write that ratio down right away. If you want to put in inches and miles, you can. That's a good idea. What's the distance in miles represented by 2.5 inches on the map? So 2.5 inches we'll write. And I'll put that over x. Now here is the thing where it gets ugly. It's really hard, and a lot of times you get it wrong when x is in the denominator. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to do the product of the reciprocals. The product of the reciprocals says if a over b equals c over d, then b over a equals d over c. In other words, you can take the reciprocal of both sides of an equation, it'll still be true. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to say 41 miles is to 5 inches, as x miles is going to be to 2.5 inches. Notice what we're doing here from the right ratio to the left ratio to the right ratio, is if I'm dividing by 2, or I'm taking the right ratio times 2. If I take 2.5 times 2, I get 5. So what do I have to do here? Well, I have to take 41 divided by 2 then, don't I? Or x times 2 gives me 41. So I get 20.5 miles. You could multiply both sides by 2.5 and get the same answer.